Well, the room next to us over here, it's had showings of where the paint's chipped off the aluminum and fallen onto the bed, fallen into like the outer shape of like a body. It was laying in bed or something. And one night I come up here, and most of the younger kids hated to do it, because, ghosts, so they say. But I come up here and I shut off the light, and the light come back on, and hear a faint voice say, "Don't turn out the light." I just disregarded it, thought maybe it was myself hearing things again. But, everybody says, well, it's the ghost, Odie. I walk by the hotel, at night, going home, and the jukebox would be playing, or the jukebox would come on by itself. Hear weird things. I've hiked under the hotel in the mine shaft, and you could hear what you think is people talking, but you don't want to, actually believe it because you're down there all by yourself, but I've hiked in a couple of different mines around here. I went out camping out at Battleship Mountain at an old miners campsite that was in like a cave. And I was sitting in there, and it was just a nice starry night, and all of a sudden you can hear two gentlemen with a conversation, and then it'd stop. You'd hear two voices. I got up and I looked around. I was the only person at the campsite, but yet you could hear the other voices. And when we lived down here in this house, it used to be the old sheriff's substation. And I woke up in the middle of the night and heard kids laughing, or adults, singing stuff, or hear voices. You'd get up and you'd walk through the house, everybody else would still be asleep. It's pretty weird. I really didn't believe in it until I moved to this town. And you get in some of these old houses and you hear things, things move, or I've heard a horse. When I was up hiking in the hills, I've heard a horse, but there's no horses around. I looked for burros, there was no burros around, but you could hear a horse. It's just, this town's pretty neat. I've lived here for 9 years, and you get to where you believe it, Some people don't want to, some people put up a false front. But most of the town actually believes in it because somebody's had to have experienced it. I used to go up to the old schoolhouse when they were drilling core samples. I used to deliver them up to the schoolhouse. And when I went up there, I thought, well, I got the key, so I'll look around. I was looking around in there, and one of the desks fell off where they were stacked up. When the desks fell off, I heard somebody say, "Ow." So I went back in the room to check it again, but there was nobody in there. So each one of the buildings around here actually has history, and spirits are still in there. Whether they want to leave by themselves or they're trapped there, you don't know. But they're there, and they never seem to hurt anybody or, cause havoc or anything. It's really neat. I've told my mom about it because she sort of believes in it. She says there's spirits, she says she's talked to her mom and stuff like that. But, the other kids, I was afraid to tell them because, how kids are, "Oh yeah, freaky here," They may call you spook or something. But I've been one, I like to go out and explore things, find new meanings of stuff, something that looks like, a door that hasn't been opened, people don't want to open it up because they're afraid what's on the other side. I like to open it up just to see what's there. If it's going to harm you, it's going to harm you. But then again, it might not. It might be something valuable. Like the mines. We went into one of the mines out here. It's like it was caved in one part, but I want to go around to the other side. But after I come out of that mine, that night I had a dream. I had a dream that the mine caved in and there was a person inside there. And I woke up, and the mine that I was in that caved in was the mine that we just come out of. You know, and there's a lot of old mines around here. This one you can get in that goes underneath the hotel here. I mean, you can go in there and hear, you know, people talking. You know, most of it's from the hotel here because it runs right underneath the hotel, and there's an open part over underneath the dance floor. But you get further back in there, you know, and you can hear voices. You know, you hear things that you think are just, well, you know, the ground settling, you know, or your house settling or stuff like that. But if you listen to the sounds, it's more of movement, actual things moving from one place to another, rather than just settling. Well, I've heard, like down in the shaft underneath the hotel, I heard you know, what sounded like, let's get to the light, or go to the daylight, move towards the daylight, or something like that. You know, and I turned around with the flashlight and there's nobody there. But the voices down there were clear. I mean, you can tell it was two men's voices, you know. And in the other house that we lived in, I mean, you could tell the difference between the child's voice as for the adult's voice, and the difference between a lady's and a man's voice. You know, as for when I was younger, you know, the first time I ever seen a ghost, okay, I didn't want to tell nobody about it because I was sort of scared of it. Okay, but my mom said I've always had a guardian angel. And one night I woke up out of a pretty bad dream. And when I woke up, at the end of my bed, it was like a light bluish, like just a mist there, but the mist had light coming out of it. Okay, you couldn't really make much. I mean, you could make it out like, you know, somewhat of a shape. But, you know, being a child, you know, I was sort of scared of it, so I turned over and pulled the blanket over. But I pulled the blanket back down to see if I was just seeing things. And when I did that, it was like on its way out of the room. And I mean, it's really neat, you know. It's scary, but then again, it's, you know, a good scary feeling, you know, makes you feel good. I love horror movies, and I love, you know, the fact of being able to see something firsthand and knowing that it's actually there and it's not the movies, you know, pictures or something like that, you know, in the movies where actually this is actually here, you know, something that's in this room with you or next to you. You know, as I've sat down on a bed, in the same room, I sat down on the bed with my book, you know, I set the book down to one side of me. As I moved towards the other side, that bed recessed as though another person sat down next to me, you know, but there was nobody there. But the bed went down, you know, and it's pretty neat. I mean, I've had some, you know, living here for 9 years, I've had some pretty weird stuff happen, but not weird as in dangerous or really spooky, scary, you know, just like voices and stuff like that. It's pretty neat. When I heard him in the room next to me, it's like, no, don't turn out the light. You know, soft but clear. You know, children's laughter sometimes was like, you know, just like faint, just like get to like a high point and then fade out. You know, the voices when I was in the shaft were clear, just like I was talking to you now. Go towards light, or get to the daylight. You know, and I mean, it sounded like somebody was actually beside you or behind you. But with nobody being there, it's kind of spooky, you know. You go out and tell somebody, well, hey, you know, somebody just talked to me down in this shaft. You know, this is what they said, but there was nobody there. They're gonna like look at you like you're weird. So you just keep it to yourself. Well, I've told, like, you know, a couple of friends are like, that stuff ain't real. there's no such thing as ghosts. There's no such thing as, voices in the night. But I've experienced them and I've heard them. When I was younger, I used to say the same thing. There's no such thing as ghosts. It's all in the movies. But once you experience it, then you know it's real. And Odie here, I've seen lights up here that when Billy Joe used to work here, my mom used to work here, and I'd always come up and shut off the lights upstairs, and I'd, be closing the door downstairs and see like a light. I'd walk back upstairs to check the lights, but there's no lights on. You don't know where the light come from, but you see the light, the glow from the light. And it's, really neat.